What's up, y'all? It's GC Kinsey, here to talk about misgendering and what to do and not to do when you slip up. Welcome to my new series of videos on misgendering, how to avoid it and how to address it when it happens. I'm going to be releasing the first two videos of this series in March 2024 because this month concludes with Trans Day of Visibility, and I'll be adding more videos to it here and there over time. I've got a bunch of ideas about various aspects of misgendering I plan to cover, but if you have an idea of something you'd like to see, let me know in the comments and I'll add it to my list. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video, which focuses on what you should and shouldn't do when you accidentally misgender someone. And I'm going to start with a disclaimer, which is that this video is not about controlling what you say or limiting your free speech or anything like that. Every trans person knows all too well that we can't make anyone gender us correctly. This video is just about giving advice to those of you who want to respect your fellow human beings, but maybe don't know how best to go about that for trans and non-binary folks and are looking to learn. So let's talk about accidental misgendering. First, with an example that doesn't actually have anything to do with trans people, and that's misgendering someone's baby or pet. This happens all the time, and it usually goes something like this. What an adorable little boy, how old is he? Oh, she's actually a girl. Whoops, sorry, how old is she? When most people guess the gender of someone's baby or pet incorrectly, they immediately accept the correction they're given and switch to the appropriate gendered terms from then on. But for some reason, that's not how most people tend to respond when someone says, "Hey, you just misgendered me." It's transphobia. The reason is transphobia. Any human who's old enough to tell you what gender they are obviously knows best, right? Each person is the #1 expert on their own gender. So you would think, logically, that when someone says, "Hey, I'm actually a he, not a she," people would be even quicker to go, "Oh, my bad, he," than they would for a pet or a baby. But they're not. People accept that you can't reliably tell what gender a baby or an animal is just by looking at them, so they're totally cool with being corrected when they get it wrong. But they have trouble accepting that you can't reliably tell what gender an older child or adult human being is by looking at them either. And therefore, they have trouble accepting a correction from the person whose gender they just guessed wrong. And that trouble stems from widespread societal transphobia. As the trans community gains more visibility, society is growing more aware of this issue, and some people are starting to react to corrections on their misgendering more respectfully. But overall, those reactions are still really unpredictable. I'm reasonably certain how someone will respond if they call my hamster a she and I go, "Oh, he's actually a he." I don't have a clue how they might respond if they call me she and I say, "Actually, I'm a he." I've gotten a wide range of responses in that exact situation, which I've been in more times than I can count. So now I want to show you some examples of hurtful ways people have responded when I've told them they've just misgendered me. A little guide on what not to do. And I'm going to divide these responses into 4 main categories. Number 1, acknowledging that I've said something, but not what I've said. Alright, have a good day, ma'am. It's sir. Oh. Okay, ma'am, looks like you have lane 1 reserved for today. It's sir, and I updated the gender on my account weeks ago, so I know you know that. Hi, GC Kinsey checking in for my appointment. Okay. Miss Kinsey? I'm not a miss, just call me GC. But your last name is Kinsey? Yeah, that's what I said, but I'm also not a woman and I don't want to be called Miss. But your last name is Kinsey, right? Reactions like these don't feel malicious or ill-intended, but they're still really hurtful. That's because the other person doesn't acknowledge the initial hurt they caused by misgendering me in the first place, which just makes the whole thing hurt even more. On top of that, these kinds of responses don't give me any indication as to whether the other person got the message of what my gender actually is, much less whether they respect it. Maybe they felt awkward or embarrassed about getting my gender wrong, or maybe they were just confused about the whole situation altogether. But with a reaction that doesn't acknowledge what I said, I have no way to tell. Number 2. giving excuses that imply that I couldn't have expected to be gendered correctly. Would you like a Republican voting guide today, ma'am? It's sir. Oh, didn't see your mask there. It's right in the middle of my face. Good afternoon, ladies. Oh, she's a lady, I'm not. What do you mean you're not? Excuse me, ma'am? 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 Hey, ma'am, I'm trying to talk to you. Me? Yeah? Well, it's sir. Well, you look like a woman to me. Responses like these hurt because they all carry the same underlying message, which is you don't look enough like your gender to deserve being gendered correctly. And when I am presenting masculine with my clothing and hairstyle, and wearing a binder, and clearly displaying my pronouns on my literal face, when I am doing everything I can to make it as easy for others to gender me correctly as possible, and they still don't do it, and they give me terrible excuses as to why, then it's like, what else do you people want from me? I'm already giving you all I've got. How is that not enough? Number 3. Continuing to misgender me after being corrected. Hi, can I take your order, ladies? I'm not a lady, she is. And here's your appetizer, ma'am. It's sir. I told you, I'm not a lady. Alright, and what are we having for dinner? He and I are going to split a plate of chicken. Okay, I'll have that right out for you, ladies. Oh my god. Have a good night, ladies. Come back again soon. I am never coming back here again. Okay, Miss Kinsey, what are we checking today? I'm not a woman, just call me GC, and we're checking my testosterone levels. Any preference on which arm, ma'am? It's sir. I just said I'm not a woman. Ooh, girl, you got some of the tiniest veins I've ever seen. You do understand I'm here to have my testosterone levels checked, right? Hi, my name's GC Kinsey. I'm calling about an unexpected charge on my account. Of course, Miss Kinsey, I can help you with that. I'm not a woman, just call me GC. Sorry about that, GC. Let me just pull up your account. And it looks like I'm gonna need to place you on a brief hold for a moment. Is that alright, ma'am? That's fine, but it's sir. I just told you I'm not a woman. Oh, right, sorry. Hold, please. Okay, Miss Kinsey, are you there? You've got to be kidding me. I think it's pretty obvious why responses like this are terrible. Misgendering someone once is hurtful enough, but continuing to do it after the person has corrected you is 1,000 times worse. I also find it really bizarre that every time this has happened to me, it hasn't been accompanied by direct refusal to use my pronouns or transphobic slurs or anything like that. Like the other person clearly isn't being hateful. Instead, it's more like a combination of ignorance and overconfidence. They have no idea what to do with a trans person, and they think they know what my gender is better than I do. So they just keep going down their extremely wrong path. Number 4. Completely ignoring my correction. Here's your drink, ma'am. It's sir. Hey, what the? Thank you, ma'am. It's sir. Next. Excuse you? Right this way, ma'am. It's sir. This way. I said it's sir. Come on through. I know you did not just ignore me like that, you. As you might have guessed, out of all 4 types of responses I've shown, this is the one I hate the most. Because if you misgender someone and then straight up ignore their correction, that is rude as f***. In a situation like that, please, please, please don't just pretend like it didn't happen. That's like if you accidentally knocked someone over and then walked away without even saying excuse me, you know? You just hurt someone. The very least you can do is acknowledge it. So yeah, it absolutely makes my blood boil when people just ignore my corrections like that, and I absolutely call them out on it when they do, because they need to understand how not cool that is. So now that you've seen all these examples of what not to do when you slip up and misgender someone, you may be wondering, what should you do instead? How can you respond as respectfully as possible without hurting the person you just misgendered any further? The answer is actually quite simple, and it's one you already know, because it's what you already do when you accidentally misgender someone's baby or pet. You briefly apologize and then restate what you just said with the correct pronouns this time. So that would look something like this. Alright, have a good day, ma'am. It's sir. Sorry, have a good day, sir. That's literally it. It's that easy. And personally, I even consider the apology optional. The part that's really important is restating what you said with the correct pronouns, because that's what shows that you got the message, that you're acknowledging what my correct gender is. And that's the one thing that was missing from all the examples I gave about what not to do. Now, not every trans person will agree with me that the apology is optional, but the reason I don't care about it that much is because people tend to get hung up on the apology and stop there. And while an apology is a nice gesture, it doesn't let me know that you're going to gender me correctly going forward the same way that restating your sentence with the correct pronouns does. It's also pretty common for people to over-apologize, to the point where it becomes more about them and their guilt than the trans person they hurt. Over-apologizing puts pressure on the trans person to go, it's okay, when misgendering is really not okay. And it's unfair to expect us to manage other people's feelings about misgendering us when we're just trying to manage our own dysphoria in that moment. So if you do apologize for misgendering someone, the best approach is to keep it brief, like a quick sorry or excuse me or my bad, and then go directly into using the correct pronouns. If the person you've accidentally misgendered is someone you don't know and are never going to see again, like a customer or a random stranger you passed on the street, then let that be a lesson to you to stop gendering people you don't know in the first place. There's no real need to call strangers Mr. or Miss or Sir or Ma'am, especially in brief interactions. How are you? Or excuse me, or have a good day are complete and perfectly respectful sentences on their own. However, gendering strangers is a habit that is ingrained into most of us from a young age, and it takes a lot of effort to break it. So here are some tips that can help with that. Remember that you can't guess anyone's gender with 100% accuracy based on appearance alone. So instead, it's better to look for concrete signifiers of gender, such as pronouns on pins and other accessories, on name tags, in bios, on customer account records, etc. If someone hasn't given you any definite signifiers and you want to make sure you're gendering them correctly, it's okay to verify it with them. But use discretion and don't put any pressure on them to answer. A lot of times when trans and non-binary people don't give our pronouns, it's because we're still closeted and or figuring things out. What's even better than asking for pronouns is offering your own pronouns to any new people you meet. That's not only a great way to avoid pressuring them to share their pronouns, it just gives them an opening to share if they want, but it also signifies that you'll respect whatever pronouns they use. And most importantly, apply these tips equally to all strangers you meet, not just ones who appear androgynous or who you think look trans. Otherwise, you're just singling out trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming folks in a way that can make them uncomfortable or even unsafe. If the person you've accidentally misgendered is someone you do know and will see again, then the most important thing you can do is make every effort to gender them correctly going forward. So here are some considerations around that. If you slip up again after you've already been corrected, catch and correct yourself. That lets the other person know that you acknowledge and respect their gender and that you're trying to get it right even if you're still making mistakes. If you don't notice that you keep slipping up, don't get frustrated when the other person keeps reminding you, because they're not trying to chastise or embarrass you, they're just trying to help. If you find yourself repeatedly slipping up even after a long time, take that as a sign to practice more and really prioritize getting it right. Otherwise, you risk losing that person from your life. If they're going to spend time with you, then they need to be able to trust that you respect them enough to gender them correctly. If you accidentally misgender a trans friend or loved one online, update your post as soon as possible and then delete and redo any story shares. That way your mistake doesn't get spread to a wide audience and make them think that that person's pronouns are something other than what they are. And get into the habit of double-checking bios for pronouns before you post just to be safe. And finally, if you notice that a trans friend or loved one frequently gets misgendered by others, ask if they would like your help with correcting and reminding people. It can be exhausting for us to have to advocate for ourselves all the time, so help is often very much appreciated. But do ask first, just in case the trans person would rather handle it themselves. With all the examples and tips I've shared, hopefully you'll come away from this video armed with more knowledge about what to do and not to do when you accidentally misgender someone. And with that, now is where I want to turn the conversation over to you. How do you handle accidental misgendering when it happens to you or when you do it to someone else? If you've corrected people who've misgendered you, what are the best and worst responses you've ever gotten? Do you have any tips for avoiding accidental misgendering to add to the ones I gave? And what questions do you have about all this? Drop a comment below and let's get a discussion going. You can also reach out to me on other social media. I'm GC Kinsey across all platforms. And while you're here, feel free to check out some of my other videos. I've got more vlogs like this one about my experiences as a queer person. I've got cosplay music videos, makeup tutorials, a bunch of cool resources for singers about voice changes on testosterone, and more right here on this channel. So make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything new. And with that, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all of your support. I hope this video helps you gender more people correctly, and I will see you on the next one.